Hello everyone, today is our second practical session. We're facing our finished simple floral relief, in my case in an orchid, and we will be learning today how to take a simple mold and how to fill it with clay afterwards to get a solid product. Hello everyone! We're starting to build a wall around our simple relief. It will be plasticine wall. As usual, our plasticine is sucking into hot water and it's nice and warm and easy to sculpt. We're cutting it with our knife and we're building a wall around our simple relief, a wall around our single flower. I think it must be 5 centimeters from each single side, so you can use your pencil and draw this 5 centimeters line first, or we can do it just with your eyes. So line is here and we're cutting and building the wall. In this case, our simple relief is 1 centimeter plinth plus 1 centimeter, nearly 1 centimeter relief. The height of the wall should be not less than 7 centimeters. 5 centimeters from each of 4 sides. We cut our plasticine, we built a wall, and now we have plenty of gaps. We need to fill each single gap with our warm plasticine. As our plaster, it's a liquid and it will go as water everywhere, and we don't want it to leak anywhere here. So we make sure that all our gaps are filled. Each single step takes time. You need to be not in a rush. You need to have time to stretch as much as you need. You need to be relaxed. You need to be focused on your own ideas about what you are doing and how you feel. It's useful to have knife, but also some wipes are essential. So as we are working from with warm plasticine, which we are getting from hot water, sometimes you will end up with plenty of water around your sculpture or under your sculpture. So I recommend we wipe it. So even because it's so wet, it's easy to take it and move it and just wipe around your simple relief. Get rid of any water and to prevent any leakage later on with your plaster. So we're wiping our surface, we're putting it back, and it seems we're ready for the next stage. For the next stage, we need a piece of soap, a bit of water, and one brush. As I said, we got a bit of water, a piece of soap, and a brush. And now we're making this form to cover our simple relief with this soap form to help us at the end to get our simple or our mold out. So we're covering it with soap and leaving to dry for a while. We have our plaster mixing bowl, rubber mixing bowl. We fill it. We fill a half of water, and we're adding plaster powder, creating a mountain, an iceberg. Now we see our iceberg, and we can start mixing it. I do it with my hands. You can use gloves. We're breaking all crumbs. It's getting thicker and it's nice and fine. Crumbs you see inside. We need to break them. We're mixing and mixing this plaster, and see, we got a consistency of double cream. It's the right moment to pour our mold. So we're pouring our mold. It's nice. You see on the surface some bubbles. There are even more inside. We need to have a brush ready to stroke our orchid simple relief flower to get rid of all bubbles inside. So we're doing this each side. It's all right now. Sometimes to make it stronger, people use some wires. I always use chopstick. I like chopstick, so I break them and add inside. That's it. It's ready. We need to wait approximately in 15 minutes. You will feel some warm, and as soon as it's getting ready, it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. We need to leave it for now and come back to this mold in a couple of hours. Let's say hello to Eve Shepherd. We're again in her studio and we're about to discover more of her art. Okay. Eve, what do you have today? What is it?
This is a plaster mould for slip casting, and so it was made in 2 pieces. You can probably see 2-piece mould, and there's a pour hole at the top where you pour your slip in, and then as the piece is opened, this is actually the bottom part of the piece, and this is the top. So what would happen is you would fill this up solid once it's in one piece. You would tie it together, and then you would fill the piece up solid with slip, and then leave it for a few minutes, depending on how dry your mould is. Pour the slip out, and you would end up with a thin, thin amount of slip that would coat all the inside. You would leave that for a short while, and then you could remove it and tidy it up, and then fire the piece. So this was a piece that was bone china originally, and you can see how the piece has been cast. So you've got the keys here that run all the way around it. That creates the alignment so that the piece isn't misaligned when it comes out of the mould, so there's not as much cleaning up to be done. And yeah, they're pretty crucial.
Yeah, we need to stress for our students that we are using plaster molds specifically for clay, because plaster dries clay and it gives this opportunity to take it out with no problems. Obviously, with this type of molds, you can't produce any ceramic, you can't produce...
No, because there's nowhere for the ceramic to...
so it's more for wax or rubber or
resin.
Resin.
But the other thing to remember about this mould is that you need a relatively simple form, or the mould gets very complicated.
Yeah,
so
simple form.
You need a very simple form, very simple sculpture. Whereas a silicone mould, you can capture. I don't know if you can get this, but you can capture very small form that's actually quite intricate and quite complicated.
But normally for ceramic, if you are making a mold, we are not making it very complicated.
For
this type of mold.
I've only got 2 pieces in my entire collection that are made slip cast.
Okay.
This is one, and the other one is just over there.
So as I said, we're not washing, but we're cracking. Look how simple it is and how fast we can clean everything. But you must wait a little bit. In some while, it's better to clean everything. And I want to bring your attention to a fact that with plaster, we are not washing. We are cracking and scrubbing all our tools. So when it's dry, and you clean everything. Especially for plaster, we always use this flexible rubber ball because at some point we need to clean and crack, and we need it to be soft. If you don't have this professional plaster ball, you can always cut children ball in halves and mix in a ball, because in this case it's easy to crack and to clean. Now we are cleaning our hands and make them ready for our next stage. So the same with the ball. So no bits, only powder. We are washing it. From inside and outside. I prefer to keep all my tools clean, and as far as you're ready, you work. They're always waiting for you.
The Barberini diptych in the Louvre Museum is one of the finest ivory relief carvings in early Christianity. It marked the transition from the taste of antiquity to the medieval. The triumphal figure in the center has been identified as Constantine the Great, who legitimized Christianity in the Roman Empire. It is said that Constantine defeated his pagan rival at the Battle of Melvin Bridge in 312 AD near Rome through the blessing of Jesus. This relief shows this blessing by the addition of 3 figures above the emperor. The central figure with a gesture of a blessing is flanked by 2 angels. 3 symbolic images were carved: the sun, the moon, and stars, signifying the divine universe. The scepter with a cross implies Christian belief, while the small figures beneath paying tribute to the emperor show that despite being Christian, that this is still imperial or colonial classical iconography. Earlier Christian art inherited a great deal from classical art. For example, the emperor is flanked by 2 female figures borrowed from pagan goddesses, those of victory and prosperity. The Arch of Constantine is a monumental work of art commemorating the triumph of Constantine in defeating his enemy at the Battle of Melvin Bridge. It marks a turning point in Western history as well as in Western art. Vasari saw the relief on the arch as indicating a decline in classical art, the point after which Western civilization sunk into the Dark Ages. Triumphal arches in ancient Rome often used a ready-made technique. They would tear down reliefs from other places, some from the conquered regions in question, and combine them in order to demonstrate the glorious and heroic exploits of the conqueror in question. The reason for using ready-made elements is possibly because an arch was required to be ready in a very short period of time, having to be built soon after the event being commemorated. The Arch of Constantine can be seen as a tableau of ancient reliefs with different styles, materials, and ages. Though it has an extremely long trajectory in human history, it fell out of use, and it wasn't until Marcel Duchamp, in his Dadaist and Surrealist art in the 20th century, that this ready-made technique was revived.
As soon as our mold is ready, we are taking apart our wall. And it's pretty much simple. As we did our soap step right, it should be also easy to move and take our mold out. Now we need to clean these sharp edges. We use our knife to make them less sharp. Honestly, it's just a coincidence that my knife is so big, so I recommend you to use smaller sizes. We're getting this nice and round edges. It's very easy with plasticine. It's really soft and fragile, by the way. We have our beautiful mold, and if you look closer, firstly we need to clean these bits of plasticine, and I will show you I will show you bubbles. You see, do you remember we were stroking our relief with a brush in plaster mass, and all beads which I didn't stroke have bubbles. You see, it's like sponge texture. So be really careful with this. Stroke a lot to get rid of these bubbles. So we don't need any plaster, because if you will be firing your clay tile and your clay has any plaster inside, it's very possible that it will blow in your kiln. So clay really doesn't like any plaster inside, because plaster creates bubble and this blow reaction in kiln. So it looks like quite clean. You still can add some details with your nail, or you can, and when you think it's enough, just open your clay. Again, surface clean, everything clean, no bits of plaster around. As I said, clay doesn't like plaster at all. And we're about to open our clay and start putting a layer for our first clay model. So you see clay consistency. It's really good when it's thin. So we're getting a layer, probably, let's say 3 millimeters thick, and we're doing this. You can do it small bit by small bit, or you can do it as I've just done with big one, but you need to make sure that this clay went in each single corner of your mold. As you saw before, and why we are using specifically plaster, because plaster takes all water, and our clay model will be dry very soon. So we need to make sure that it's at least 3 millimeters, or we can build up to 5 thick. We can't remove it now, but in a while it will be drier than now, and smaller. When plaster mold takes water out of clay model, our clay model becomes smaller. So we need to make it thicker at the edges and to keep shape, not twisted. Normally we're always putting a cross inside to keep this flat. As I said, it becomes thicker towards edges. But you need to keep it plus or minus 3-5 millimeters. For sculpture, it's very important to turn your piece. We're making now a relief, but with round sculpture, three-dimensional proper sculpture, which we will be making later during our skull session and portrait sessions. You are turning constantly on a wheel like that, because it's round thing, and simultaneously you are working on all parts of it. You are not working only on eyes or only on head. You are working simultaneously, catching these big and small proportions and masses. When you're working with clay, always keep a water around, a bowl with water, because it's really essential. Clay loves water, and you are having these smooth surfaces using your fingers which are wet. Water is really essential when you are using with clay. Water is also very important not to have any bubbles inside. So squash clay hard. When we have a bubble inside, it will explode in a kiln. So press hard, try to keep certain thickness and maintain it everywhere. We are leaving it for a while to dry. Normally it takes a few hours. And you will see quite quickly how your relief, clay relief, separating from your mold and becoming more dry and smaller. Next session, we will start to build our big version. Composition 18 by 18 centimeters, again on a wooden board, at least 20 centimeters bigger than our composition 18 by 18. We will try to learn about composition and to repeat all what we learned during our first two practical lessons.